Kathmandu Airport information Oscar 0000 Zulu. Wind 090 at tree. Visibility, tree. Sky condition, few clouds at 1,900 feet. Temperature, 7. Dew point, 10. QNH tree 0.15. Visual runway 2 in use. Landing and departing runway 2. DFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have Oscar.
Kathmandu Ground Royal Bhutan 401 IFR to Paro ready to copy.
Royal Bhutan 401 is cleared to Paro Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 2 climb and maintain 11,000 feet. Departure frequency is 124.7 squawk 7465.
Royal Bhutan 401 cleared to Paro Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 2 climb and maintain 11,000 feet. Departure on 124.7 squawk 7465.
Royal Bhutan 401 read that correct. Contact ground on 121.9. Good day.
Boarding completed.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, on behalf of myself, your captain, the first officer, and cabin crew, I'd like to take this time to welcome you aboard our flight. We're just wrapping up some paperwork up front here and waiting to receive final numbers from the ground crew, then we'll be on our way. Flight attendants will be coming through the cabin shortly with a very important safety briefing. We do ask that you give them your full, undivided attention as they review the safety operations of this Airbus aircraft. We do appreciate your business having you aboard this flight. If there's anything we do to make your flight any more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to ask. Welcome aboard.
Flight attendants, arm doors, and cross-check.
Cockpit to ground.
This is ground. Stand by. Okay, sir. The bypass pin is installed. All doors and hatches closed and all ground equipment is removed. Standing by for pushback.
Cockpit to ground.
Go ahead.
We are cleared for start and push.
Okay, cleared for push start.
Parking brakes are released.
Commencing pushback. You can start the engines in sequence.
It will start in the sequence.
Okay, pushback completed. Please set your parking brake.
Parking brake set. Ground. Startup is complete. You may disconnect.
Roger. Good engine start. Cleared to disconnect. See you at the side. Have a good flight.
Holding position waiting for the visual. Thank you and goodbye. Kathmandu ground Royal Bhutan 401 with Oscar ready to taxi IFR.
Royal Bhutan 401 taxi to and hold short of runway 2 via taxiway Foxtrot Echo. Contact tower on 118.1 when ready.
Taxi to and hold short runway 2 via taxiway Foxtrot Echo Royal Bhutan 401.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
Kathmandu Tower Royal Bhutan 401 ready for IFR departure runway 2.
Royal Bhutan 401 hold short runway 2. Traffic is Airbus on final.
Hold short runway 2 Royal Bhutan 401.
India 215 turn next taxiway. 015 contact ground on 121.9er. Royal Bhutan 401 QNH tree 0.15 wind 090 at tree. Cleared for takeoff runway 2.
Cleared for takeoff runway 2 Royal Bhutan 401.
Going to 121.9er Air India 215. Kathmandu Tower to 015 tree 9er 11 miles southwest inbound visual runway 2 approach. To 015 tree 9er Kathmandu Tower. QNH tree 0.15 wind 090 at tree. Cleared visual runway 2 approach. Cleared visual runway 2 approach to 015 tree 9er.
Royal Bhutan 401. Goodbye. Kathmandu Center Royal Bhutan 401 is at 5,600 feet climbing 11,000 feet.
Royal Bhutan 401 Kathmandu Center QNH tree 0.15 radar contact. Continue to our 005D. Royal Bhutan 401 climb and maintain 11,000 feet. Expect flight level 350.
Climb and maintain 11,000 feet. Expect flight level 350 Royal Bhutan 401. Climb and maintain flight level 190 Royal Bhutan 401. Climb and maintain flight level 290 Royal Bhutan 401.
Welcome back. What's the worst place to become pilots? Today, we're going to experience a flight into some of the world's most extreme airstrips. Not for the faint-hearted.
So I'm an ex-bush pilot, and I was flying in Indonesia, in Papua especially, from 2009 to 2016. pretty much flying the most dangerous routes in the world. These are real pioneering things, plane crashes, dangerous weather, dangerous airstrips, the most extreme environments you can possibly imagine to fly an aircraft in. And I was just hooked on this kind of stuff.
If you think Lukla is the world's most dangerous airport, think again. Because I've seen in West Papua, the gradients of runway up to 30% is like a roller coaster going one way up and one way down. It's really crazy. And then everyone saw the video would swear the F word. It was so crazy. How did you get a job in West Papua flying for Susi Air?
So it basically came around from the recession in 2008, 2009. I couldn't find a commercial job in Europe anywhere. And so I kind of cast the net wide and found out about this company called Susi Air, who were flying Cessna Caravans and Pilatus Porters. And so I went out there kind of thinking I'll get some experience on the Caravan. But part of that kind of deal was we moved around quite a lot. And then I got to Papua after like 6 months, saw the Pilatus Porters, saw what the guys were doing with these aircrafts, and just fell in love with it. There was just no way I could go back and work for an airline now, having seen just what was out there, this kind of real pioneering, cutting edge, super dangerous, just you and the machine against nature, basically. So Papua is it's kind of a place a lot of people haven't even heard of. A lot of people heard of Papua New Guinea, which is the kind of eastern province of this island, the New Guinea Island, which is divided down the middle. And I flew in the western side, West Papua, which is actually part of Indonesia, which is obviously a much larger country. So politically, you have this kind of divide. The island itself, though, is very much the same. It just has a huge amount of mountains across the center of it. And a lot of people wouldn't even believe it. It's right on the equator there, and you have these snow-capped mountains, 16,000 feet high. So you've got this kind of lush tropical jungle combining into these super dangerous snow-capped mountains. And then on top of that, you've got this weather situation where you've got fog in the valleys, you've got these winds that blast up the valleys, which make landings really tricky. Because a lot of the airstrips on the sides of the mountains there, which for us bush pilots, that's kind of part of the challenge, is getting our machines onto the side of the mountain, onto these little airstrips there, which are kind of linking up all these little villages.
Tell us how many airfield and airstrip there is in West Papua?
It's quite hard to say, to be honest. It's mostly because there's new ones popping up all of the time. It must be in at least 1,000 plus, probably in the thousands, to be honest. And definitely as a pilot, once you've got enough experience, it was one of the more rewarding kind of things we would do. There was one I definitely remember called Liligan, which was this little airstrip quite close to another airstrip, which I had the coordinates for. I went in there with one of the kind of head guys, and we basically were the first aircraft to land there. And you can see the villagers just get so excited because they spend many years building these airstrips. To finally get an aircraft to land on it, it's a big celebration for them because there's no other way to connect their village to the kind of the larger towns and things. So it gives them that access, and so as you can see, they're really super happy about it. And as pilots, we love it too. Because, it presents another challenge for us, a really, really rewarding one. So plane crashes, unfortunately, pretty typical in Papua. A lot of it was from the smaller aircraft, the sort of Cessna Caravans and the kind of things that I was flying. But also the big guys would crash as well. This town called Wamena, where I was based, it's a big town with a big runway, but it's completely isolated. It's in the middle of the mountains, cut off from...
Climb and maintain flight level 350, Royal Bhutan 401.
outside world, basically. There's no roads or anything in there, so the only way in and out is via 737 cargo planes. And these guys would push it, they were trying to land these overloaded aircraft onto this runway, surrounded by huge mountains, with no go-around options. And I got kind of good at predicting when they might crash it. I've got footage of the 737 with I think it was about a 4G touchdown, and basically left the landing gear behind, which was not something you see every day, but in Papua it's certainly not uncommon, unfortunately. In addition to the kind of environmental side of things with the terrain and the clouds and everything else there, politically Papua is pretty unstable. It's a pretty dangerous place to be, especially as a foreigner. There is a lot of kind of freedom fighting going on there now, and actually one of my colleagues was actually kidnapped a few years ago, and he was held captive for 18 months before they released him finally, thankfully unhurt. So this is now this additional danger, which it was sort of there when I was working there, but it was not quite as bad as it is these days, unfortunately. So it's definitely got a little more dangerous than it was. So if the flying wasn't dangerous enough, you've now got this kind of extra element to consider. And obviously, some airstrips you just don't go into just due to that kind of situation. It's just too risky, basically.
Berapa? Harganya yang ayam berapa?
1 ekor 80.
Berapa?
80.
80.000 untuk satu ayam ya?
Ya, ekor. 1 ekor 80.
Oh, itu mahal.
Naiknya pesawat, Cap.
And here we got a typical load of frozen chicken, fresh from Mika.
So obviously aviation here isn't luxury, it's for survival. Give me a typical day of being a bush pilot in West Papua. What time do you get up? How many flights do you operate?
Generally be getting up quite early, especially with the mountain weather. We kind of want to get airborne quickly. As soon as that sun comes up, you start getting a lot of heating on the land, which then causes a lot of winds to start building up, so that also makes our life a lot more dangerous. So we're getting up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to make sure we're airborne at sunrise, basically at sort of 6 a.m. Typically we're kind of flying anything. We have this kind of mantra with the Pilatus, if it fits, it flies. So we'll be flying a lot of subsidized rice, which would be this kind of Indonesian government subsidized rice into the villages to help the sort of farmers there. Along with that, we've got sort of medicine stuff, a lot of building supplies, there's a lot of road development going on, a lot of fuel drums for heavy machinery to operate and rebuild some of these towns. And along with the people themselves, there was a lot of these what we call apprentice flights, which sort of roughly translates as pioneering flights, which the Indonesian government would subsidize to help people connect from the remote villages to kind of slightly bigger places, perhaps with better medical facilities and that sort of thing. It's quite rewarding, to be honest. Like a lot of these people, when they come onto the aircraft, obviously these local Papuans, a lot of them have, they've never been in a car, let alone an aircraft. So, getting them on board, getting them in a seat there, getting them to sit down with a seatbelt on, it's a whole new experience for them. Some of them loved it, they'd be kind of laughing and enjoying the flight. Some of them would be kind of screaming in terror because it's, getting into an aircraft's not a normal thing for them to get to see and do. And yeah, it was definitely rewarding doing that kind of thing, much more so than sort of maybe the more mundane flights of just sort of taking a load of cement out to somewhere.
Today's mission, if you can hear me over the engine run of that twin otter there,
is to take all of this. Is medicine, which we're loading up here in Alaga, and we're taking it over to an airstrip about 20 miles away, Agadugume. Should be about 12 minutes flight, and it's pretty much over there.
Just checking the prop blades here. Is a rather large rock actually go right through it on landing just now, so just checking out to make sure got no chips or anything in here. So I think we got lucky today, and here we are 12 minutes later. In Agadugume. In case you're wondering about the jumper, it's pretty much because this is one of the highest airfields in Papua, 8,700 feet. And as you can see down here, it is 16 degrees out there, which is not especially warm.
Matt, there must be tense moments that you saw the weather coming, closing in. You gotta say, let me jump on the plane and get out of here before it get totally fogged, or otherwise you're screwed. There must be some special memories, right? Tell me more about.
A typical thing that would happen would be getting the aircraft stuck, either because you've landed and then the fog closes in and then you're kind of trapped there, maybe overnight potentially, if it doesn't lift. But then also just the ground itself is often very wet and very slippery. So whilst the landings are quite challenging, some of the hardest stuff can actually be just maneuvering the aircraft on the ground, and it can be quite difficult to get stuck on some of these really steep ones, whereby if you don't have enough energy in the aircraft after landing to get up onto these kind of parking areas, you get stuck at full power just pointing up the airstrip and not moving anywhere. You reduce the power and the aircraft starts sliding backwards, which is just terrifying. And the only solution to that is to actually get things out of the aircraft, so you kind of pull the door open and just start getting people out and cargo out, whatever you can to make it light enough so you can get the aircraft up and onto the ramp. And aside from that, sometimes they didn't have the ramp, so sometimes you just have to try and go 180 uphill, which then you get stuck. The aircraft just can't turn because it's too slippery on the ground, the wheel digs in, and then you're there for a couple of hours trying to dig the thing out, which, it's just all part of being a bush pilot, really. So one of the most scary moments.
Royal Bhutan 401, contact Calcutta Center on 120.1. Good day.
120.1 Royal Bhutan 401. Goodbye. Calcutta Center Royal Bhutan 401 flight level 350.
Royal Bhutan 401, Calcutta Center radar contact. Continue to Papa Romeo Oscar.
Calcutta Center Royal Bhutan 401. Request flight level 250.
Royal Bhutan 401, descend and maintain flight level 290. Expect flight level 250.
Descend and maintain flight level 290. Expect flight level 250 Royal Bhutan 401.
happens to myself in terms of sort of harrowing experience would be when I got acute food.
Descend and maintain flight level 210. Expect vectors visual runway tree approach. Royal Bhutan 401 descend and maintain 12,000 feet.
Descend and maintain 12,000 feet. Expect vectors visual runway tree approach Royal Bhutan 401.
Poisoning whilst flying an aircraft. So you kind of imagine that you're flying an aircraft, my pilotus spotter doesn't have an autopilot. We're flying inside a cloud. We've got mountains literally just below us, and I'm vomiting uncontrollably. The world is starting to spin around, and I don't even know if I can stay conscious, let alone fly an aircraft. And this went on for like half an hour. This whole flight was just so harrowing. I was just, with every time I'd dry retch, I would just get weaker and weaker and weaker. And eventually I managed to kind of get out of the clouds and away from the terrain and position the aircraft towards Timika, the big airport there. I was so weak at this point, I couldn't even talk to air traffic control, so I was just barreling into an international airport, not talking to anybody. Somehow managed to land the aircraft on the runway without damaging anything. And the last thing I remember is just pulling the engine cut off and passing out. I then kind of came to with people like picking me up out of the cockpit, bundling me into a car, and then just in and out of consciousness the whole time in this car. I just felt like it was going on forever. And then woke up in a hospital with kind of drips and stuff inside of me. How on earth I just didn't fall asleep whilst I was just flying, because it was so uncomfortable. I just wanted to die, basically. But somehow I just held on.
But I want to talk to you about a little trick that I use to assess whether or not I'm actually going to be able to cross a ridge that's in front of me or not. And what you're really looking for is for that object in the distance there, that terrain or clouds or whatever it is you're looking at. You want to make sure that you can see more and more of that as you're...
400 is at 12,300 feet, climbing flight level 260. Royal Bhutan 400, Calcutta Center QNH tree 0.05 radar contact. Continue to DAS.
Descend and maintain 11,000 feet Royal Bhutan 401.
Getting closer and closer. Provided that, you can see more and more that it's rising up, then that basically means that you will be able to cross that ridge. If, on the other hand, that it starts to shrink down below that ridge line that you're trying to cross and you can't see it anymore, that means you're going to hit the ridge. So you're going to have to make a turn, get a bit more height, and, come around for another go.
The kind of art of bush flying, I suppose, if you want to break it down, would be knowing when to push it and knowing when to back it off. Because a lot of the time you've got this kind of weather situation where you're just having to edge your way up a valley with the fog and the rain. But sometimes it's just a bit too much and you've got to know where's that line between making a 180 and getting out of there, or just sneaking in and getting the job done on the airstrip. And that's the challenge. That's what we like doing. As bush pilots, that's it. It was pretty much, you get it wrong, the ultimate penalty. A lot of people do say it's the worst place to be a pilot, but I don't know. I used to call it the pilot's paradise just from the, we did actually enjoy it. So you have to be very good at knowing how much risk you can accept to get the job done safely. Because if you take on too much risk, you're basically a cowboy and you're pushing it too hard. So you just have to have this kind of mentality about you to know when you can kind of push it a little bit and when you can back it off a little bit. And that's kind of the art of being a bush pilot, I suppose, is just that risk management. I suppose that's certainly one thing I took away from working out there, is that I got very good at knowing how much risk I could tolerate, how much I could push something, and when I needed to back it off, basically. You don't last 7 years out there. Without any incidents.
Do you remember how many hours you built in 7 years in Indonesia?
Oh, that's a good question. How many hours? Gosh, I guess there must have been about 5,000-6,000 hours, something like that. So I got a lot of experience, and takeoffs and landings, double that probably. Most of our flights were sort of 20-30 minutes. So I got very good at takeoff and landing for sure. And with no autopilot, my hand flying skills got very good as well. So it's definitely, as I've gone on with my aviation career and flown other aircraft types, I kind of settle into them pretty quickly because I've just got so much of this hand flying experience to lean on. So if you're interested in this kind of flying, then you might be interested to know I've got a book out called Flying from Shangri-La, which is basically encompasses my 7-year experience going from an IT nerd working computer programming all the way through to extreme bush pilot and all the kind of
Bhutan 401, contact Guwahati Center on 123.9er. Good day.
123.9er Royal Bhutan 401. Goodbye. Guwahati Center Royal Bhutan 401 is at 17,100 feet, descending 11,000 feet.
Royal Bhutan 401, Guwahati Center QNH 30.05 radar contact, continue.
lessons I've learned along the way, and that's basically who knew paradise can be that dangerous. Go check it out.
So usually I would love to visit these places firsthand and share the experience, but Papua I think is the next level. I'm so glad to meet Matt today. As soon as he has the book out, we contacted each other on Instagram, and now I invited him and he shared all his 7 years of flying experiences.
Bhutan 401, descend and maintain 12,000 feet.
Descend and maintain 12,000 feet, Royal Bhutan 401.
Royal Bhutan 401, descend and maintain 11,000 feet.
Descend and maintain 11,000 feet, Royal Bhutan 401. 10,000 feet, Royal Bhutan 401.
Royal Bhutan 401 descend and maintain 12,000 feet.
Descend and maintain 12,000 feet, Royal Bhutan 401.
Royal Bhutan 401 climb and maintain 13,000 feet.
Climb and maintain 13,000 feet, Royal Bhutan 401.
Royal Bhutan 401 descend and maintain 11,000 feet.
Descend and maintain 11,000 feet, Royal Bhutan 401.
Royal Bhutan 401 descend and maintain 10,000 feet.
Descend and maintain 10,000 feet, Royal Bhutan 401.
Royal Bhutan 401 descend and maintain 9,400 feet.
Descend and maintain 9,400 feet, Royal Bhutan 401.
$2,500. $2,500.
Royal Bhutan 401, I have the runway in sight.
Royal Bhutan 401, you are 7 miles southeast of Paro. Turn right heading 300. Contact Paro Tower on 120.3.
Turn right heading 300. Tower on 120.3, Royal Bhutan 401. Paro Tower, Royal Bhutan 401, 6 miles southeast inbound visual runway tree approach.
Royal Bhutan 401 Paro Tower. QNH 30.30 wind calm cleared visual runway tree approach. Royal Bhutan 401 wind calm cleared to land runway tree.
Clear to land runway tree, Royal Bhutan 401.
Bhutan 773 contact Guvahati Center on 123.9. Good day. Going to 123.9 Bhutan 773.
$1,000. $400, $300, $300, $400, $400, $300. $200, $100, $50, $40, $30, $20, retard, 5.
Royal Bhutan 401 exit runway when able. Bhutan 401 exit runway when able. Royal Bhutan 401, turn next taxiway. Royal Bhutan 401, turn next taxiway. Royal Bhutan 401, contact ground on 120.3.
Going to 120.3 Royal Bhutan 401. Paro ground Royal Bhutan 401 taxi to the gate.
Royal Bhutan 401, taxi to gate 1 using taxiway Alpha.
Taxiing to gate 1 via taxiway Alpha Royal Bhutan 401.
The doors verified?